We're on to the next subsection, 1.4, Guidelines and Standards. Subtitling guidelines and standards are made up of a verbal component, formatting, layout, timing, and a non-verbal component, character identification, tone, sound effects, and music. The non-verbal component is what is specific to closed captioning or subtitling for the deaf and hard of hearing. It does not normally apply to interlingual subtitles for the hearing, that is, to translation subtitles. The verbal component is made up of formatting, font, size, color, layout, number of lines, position, segmentation and line breaks, and finally timing, which includes speed, synchronization, and shot changes. Formatting. The font, well, preferably we're looking at fonts such as Arial, Verdana, Helvetica, Tiresias. These are sans serif fonts, that is, unlike, for example, Times New Roman, they do not have the small projecting features called serifs at the end of the strokes. In terms of size, the nominal size of subtitles shall be 24 television lines for the capital V. Television lines are the maximum number of alternating light and dark vertical lines that can be resolved per picture height. Nowadays, size is measured in pixels. A common size for subtitles used in computer screens is 30. These data, these guidelines have been obtained from different guidelines and standards, especially in the UK, by Ofcom and the BBC. Formatting, color, the range of colors shall be limited to 12. That shall closely replicate the range associated with analog teletext delivery. Black and sometimes yellow is the preferred color for subtitles, but in the section called the character identification, we will give more information about this. If we focus now on layout, the number of lines, the maximum subtitle length of 2 lines is normally recommended. 3 lines may be used if the subtitler is confident that no important information will be obscured from the pictures. In terms of positioning, the normally accepted position for subtitles is towards the bottom of the screen, but in obeying this convention, it is most important to avoid obscuring on-screen subtitles, any part of a speaker's mouth or any other important activity. In terms of the position, certain special program types carry a lot of information in the lower part of the screen. For example, snooker, where most of the activity tends to center around the black ball. And in such cases, top screen positioning will be an acceptable standard. A 1-line subtitle normally sits on line 1, the bottom line. A 2-liner sits on lines 1 and 2. A 3-liner sits on lines 1, 2, and 3. In terms of segmentation and line breaks, ideally each subtitle should also comprise a single completed sentence. Short sentences may be combined into a single subtitle if the available reading time is limited. Additional reading time is gained in this way because the viewer's gaze needs to be directed to the subtitle area only once, rather than 2 or 3 times if 2 or 3 short sentences are displayed on consecutive subtitles. In terms of segmentation, it may be possible to break a long sentence into 2 or more separate sentences and to display them as consecutive subtitles. For example, the sentence, we have standing orders and we have procedures which have been handed down to us over the centuries. That's a long sentence. This would become 2 subtitles. Number 1, we have standing orders and procedures with a full stop. Next subtitle, next sentence, they have been handed down to us over the centuries. Just to give another example, to point out that segmentation at major phrase boundaries can also be accepted as follows. Subtitle 1. On 2 minor occasions immediately following the war. Next subtitle. Small numbers of people were seen crossing the border. In terms of line breaks, similar linguistic considerations should guide the subtitler in deciding how to format a single multi-line subtitle. Subtitle lines should end at natural linguistic breaks, ideally at clause or phrase boundaries. However, since the dictates of space within a subtitle are more severe than between subtitles, line breaks may also take place after a verb. Problems occur with justification when a short sentence or phrase is followed by a longer one. In this case, there is a risk that the bottom line of the subtitle is read first. Subtitle 1, oh, he didn't tell me you would be here. Subtitle 2, oh, placed at the very right, he didn't tell me you would be here. This could result in only half of the subtitle being read. Allowances would be therefore made by breaking the line at a linguistically non-coherent point. Subtitle 1, oh, he didn't tell me you would be there. Subtitle 2, you have oh, and on the same line, he didn't tell me, and then next line, you would be there. Subtitle 3, oh, he didn't tell me you would be, first line, here, or there, second line. Next, the last section in this verbal component of subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing deals with timing, synchronization, shot changes, and speed. Timing, synchronization. Subtitle appearance should coincide with speech onset. Subtitle disappearance should coincide roughly with the end of the corresponding speech segment, since subtitles remaining too long on the screen are likely to be reread by the viewers. The same rules of synchronization should apply with off-camera speakers and even with off-screen narrators, since viewers with a certain amount of residual hearing, they can make use of auditory cues to direct their attention to the subtitle area. Synchronization in shot changes. Besides the general recommendation for subtitle speech synchronization that we have just mentioned, there are certain other aspects of the television picture which influence subtitle timing. Subtitles that are allowed to overrun shot changes can cause considerable perceptual confusion and should be avoided. Eye movement research shows that camera cuts in the middle of a subtitle presentation cause the viewer to return to the beginning of a partially read subtitle and to start rereading it. In practice, it is recognized that the frequency and speed of shot changes in many programs present serious problems for the subtitler. A subtitle should therefore be anchored over a shot change by at least 1 second to allow the reader time to adjust to the new picture. Shot changes normally reflect the beginning or end of speech. The subtitler should therefore attempt to insert a subtitle on a shot change when this is in synchrony with the speaker. General rules for dealing with camera cuts are as follows. Number 1, avoid inserting a subtitle less than 1 second before a camera cut and removing a subtitle less than 1 second after a camera cut. Number 2, attempt to insert a subtitle in exact synchrony with a camera cut. Number 3, a decision to segment a single sentence into more than one subtitle to be placed around the camera cut should depend on whether the sentence can be segmented naturally and on whether the resulting subtitles can be allowed sufficient display time. Camera fades and pans do not produce the same perceptual effect as camera cuts, and accordingly need not influence the subtitler in the same way. Major scene changes can cause the same problems as shot changes within a scene. A particular difficulty arises when a speaker's last line in a scene, especially a vital punchline, is followed instantaneously by a scene change. In this case, the subtitle should be removed before the scene change to avoid visual confusion. Some film techniques introduce the soundtrack for the next scene before the scene change has occurred. If possible, the subtitler should wait for the scene change before displaying the subtitle. If this is not possible, the subtitle should be clearly labeled to explain the technique. For example, a label for John to identify the speaker, and what have we here. In terms of timing and speed, we're given some recommendations obtained from the BBC. If there is plenty of time for verbatim or near verbatim speech, do not edit unnecessarily. Your aim should be to give the viewer as much access to the soundtrack as you possibly can within the constraints of time, space, shot changes, and on-screen visuals. You should never deprive the viewer of words or sounds when there is time to include them and when there is no conflict with the visual information. And it is almost always necessary to edit the speech. The subtitler must always edit according to the amount of time available. Where it's necessary to edit everything evenly. Do not take the easy way out by simply removing an entire sentence. Sometimes this will be appropriate, but normally you should aim to rephrase or edit out a bit of every sentence. It is crucial that subtitles are displayed for a sufficient length of time for viewers to read them. The subtitle presentation rate for pre-recorded programs should not normally exceed 140 words per minute. In exceptional circumstances, for example in the case of add-ons, the higher rate of 180 words per minute may be permitted. The latest research on subtitling speed recommends speeds based on data obtained from the analysis of 71,000 subtitles watched by 103 hearing, hard of hearing and deaf viewers all over Europe. And what we are given here is a recommendation based on that research, whereby you have a certain speed in the subtitles, and depending on the speed of the subtitles, the viewers may have more or less time to look at the subtitles and the images. So with a viewing speed, or with a subtitling speed if you like, of 120 words per minute, this would allow the viewers to spend about 40% of the time on the subtitles and 60% of the time on the images. If the speed of the subtitles is 150 words per minute, this will allow the viewers normally to spend half of the time on the subtitles and the other half on the images. If the subtitling speed is 180 words per minute, the time devoted to the subtitles will be between 60 and 70%. The time devoted to the images will be lower, between 40 and 30%. Should the subtitles be as fast as 200 words per minute, then the time on the subtitles would be as much as 80%, and the time left to look at the images will be as little as 20%. In other words, the faster the subtitles, the less time is available to look at the images. We're on to the second part of the guidelines on non-verbal components, that is, character identification, tone, sound effects and music. These are the components that make closed captioning or subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing very specific and different from interlingual subtitling for the hearing. In terms of character identification, in subtitling for the deaf and hard of hearing, in closed captioning, it is necessary to identify characters in fiction programs or speakers in live programs. This can be done through the use of dashes, colors, displacement, and tags or labels with the name of a character. Dashes. This technique is often used in interlingual subtitles for the hearing. It may be useful to identify two speakers if it is clear who is speaking first. In general, it is not useful for the identification of multiple speakers. When we use colors, the most common colors are in this order: white, yellow, cyan and green. Sometimes magenta, red and blue are also used. White and yellow are the preferred colors. Unnecessary use of cyan and green should be avoided, as viewers with poor eyesight find these colors difficult to read. Magenta, red, blue, they are to be used only when strictly necessary. How to use these colors? Where possible, therefore, each speaker should be identified by a single color consistently throughout the program. Alternatively, programs can be treated in terms of scenes. Seldom does any single scene on television include more than about 4 speaking characters, although this could happen. Particular text colors can usually be associated with separate speakers within any single scene. Displacement. Apart from dashes and colors, this is another technique to identify speakers and characters. It is also helpful to use screen position and justification to support speaker identification. Each subtitle can be displayed horizontally towards the appropriate speaker. The main problem here is when characters move about while speaking. In such cases, the subtitle should be positioned at the discretion of the subtitler to identify the position of the speaker as clearly as possible. In countries such as the UK, displacement is often combined with colors. Here is an example from the film Shrek, where the subtitle has been displayed, in this case, not only horizontally, but actually upwards on the screen, and it is both displaced and it carries a color as well. That is, both techniques have been combined to help viewers with hearing loss identify who is speaking. Tags or labels are another technique to identify characters. It's a common method to identify characters in DVDs and also on TV in situations where the source of the speech is not immediately apparent, including telephone voices, radios, announcements, etc. If a loudspeaker says, "Fasten your seatbelts please," then this would be the way in which it could be displayed. Character name labels in full capitals are sometimes necessary for clarification, for example for crowd scenes or scenes enacted in the dark. John label, "What's happened to the lights?" It is important to remember that viewers with hearing loss make use of facial cues in day-to-day communication. So, first and foremost, closed captioning or subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing must allow viewers time to read each subtitle and to watch the associated picture. However, when necessary and not obvious from the picture, subtitles can also indicate tone and mood, which include, for example, volume, intensity, and emotions. When emotions such as sadness, fear, disgust, surprise, etc. are not apparent from the image, a label can be used before the subtitle. For example, surprised, "I didn't know." Sad, "He had to go." The tone label can be used in brackets or without brackets, and in all caps or in lowercase. To indicate a sarcastic statement or question, an exclamation question mark in brackets can be used without a space in between. Charming, "You're not going to work today, are you?" Caps can be used to indicate when a word is stressed. This device should not be overused, as text sprinkled with caps can be very hard to read. However, the occasional indication of stress can be very useful for conveying meaning. "It is the book I want, not the paper." "I know that, but when will you be finished?" Caps can also be used to indicate when words are shouted or screamed. "Help me." However, large chunks of text in caps should be avoided. They are hard to read because the words have no shape. To indicate whispered speech, a label is most effective. However, when time is short, you can place brackets around the whispered speech. Whispers, "Don't let him near you." Or, between brackets, "Don't let him near you." That would be the effect of whispering between brackets or with a tag. If the whispered speech continues over more than one subtitle, brackets can start to look very messy, so a label in the first subtitle is preferable. Brackets can also be used to indicate an aside, which may or may not be whispered. A question mark followed by an exclamation mark with no space can also indicate questions asked in an incredulous tone. "You mean you're going to marry him?" Subtitlers should not indicate accent as a matter of course, but only where it is relevant for the viewer's understanding. This is rarely the case in serious straight news reports, but may be well relevant in lighter, factual items. For example, you would only indicate the nationality of a foreign scientist being interviewed on the news if it were relevant to the subject matter and the viewer could not pick up the information from any other source, for example from their actual words or any accompanying graphics. However, in a drama or comedy where a character's accent is crucial to the plot or to the enjoyment, the subtitles must establish the accent when we first see the character and continue to reflect it from then on. When it is necessary to indicate accent, bear in mind that although the subtitler's aim should always be to reproduce the soundtrack as faithfully as possible, a phonetic representation of a speaker's foreign or regional accent or dialect is likely to slow up the reading process and may ridicule the speaker. So maybe we can aim to give a viewer a flavor of the accent or dialect by spelling a few words phonetically and by including any unusual vocabulary or sentence construction that can be easily read. A foreign speaker may make grammatical mistakes that do not render the sense incomprehensible but make the subtitle difficult to read in the given time. In this case, you should either give the subtitle more time or change the text as necessary. For example, "I and my wife is being marrying 4 years since and are having 4 children, yes." This could be changed to "I and my wife have been married 4 years and have 4 children, yes." The speech text alone may not always be enough to establish the origin of an overseas or regional speaker. In that case, and if it is necessary for the viewer's understanding of the context of the content, a label can be used to make the accent clear. For example, in capitals American accent, all the evidence points to the plot. Tone labels can be used for difficult speech as well. Unscripted speakers often ramble on in sloppily constructed sentences or sentences that never end. It is important to remember that what might make sense when it is heard might make little or no sense when it is read. If a piece of speech is impossible to make out, you will have to put up a label saying why. Drunken speech, slurred speech. Subtitlers should avoid subjective labels such as unintelligible, incomprehensible, he babbles incoherently. Tone labels can also be used to indicate inaudible speech. Speech can be inaudible for different reasons. The subtitler should put up a label explaining the cause. Applause drowns speech, train drowns his words, music drowns speech, he mouths. As for silence, long speechless pauses can sometimes lead the viewer to wonder whether the subtitles have failed. It can help in such cases to insert explanatory text such as introductory music, long pause, romantic music. Finally, tone is also used to indicate hesitation and interruption. If a speaker hesitates, subtitlers should not edit out the ums and ahs if they are important for characterization or for the plot. However, if the hesitation is merely incidental and the ums actually slow up the reading process, then they can be edited out. This is most likely to be the case in factual content, and too many ums can make the speaker appear ridiculous. When the hesitation or interruption is to be shown within a single subtitle, you can follow these rules. A. To indicate a pause within a sentence, insert 3 dots at the point of pausing. Then continue the sentence immediately after the dots, for example, without leaving a space. Everything that matters is a mystery. If the speaker simply trails off without completing a sentence, you can put the 3 dots at the end of his or her speech. If she or he then starts a new sentence, no continuation dots are necessary. Hello, Mr. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten your name. If the unfinished sentence is a question or exclamation, put 3 dots, not 2, before the question mark or exclamation mark. What do you think you are? If a speaker is interrupted by another speaker or event, put 3 dots at the end of the incomplete sentence. When the hesitation occurs in the middle of a sentence, that is split across 2 subtitles, you can do the following. Where there is no time lapse between the 2 subtitles, put 3 dots at the end of the first subtitle, but no dots in the second one. I think I would like to leave now. If a speaker speaks very slowly or falteringly, break your subtitles more often to avoid having slow subtitles on the screen. However, do not break a sentence up so much that it becomes difficult to follow. If a speaker stammers, give some indication, but not too much, by using hyphens between repeated sounds. This is more likely to be needed in drama than in factual content. Letters to show a stammer should follow the case of the first letter of the word. I'm going home. What are you doing? Not the option that is between brackets on that slide. So we're now finished with tone, and we're on to the next section within this non-verbal component of subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, which deals with sound effects. Any relevant sound effect not immediately obvious from the visual action should be subtitled. This includes sound effects that become apparent in the subsequent action, for example, the telephone ringing before it is picked up, an explosion occurring outside before everyone dives under the table, etc. This does not mean that every single creak and gurgle must be covered, only those which are crucial for the viewer's understanding of the events on screen, or which may be needed to convey flavor or atmosphere, or enable them to progress in gameplay, as well as those which are not obvious from the action. A dog barking in one scene could be entirely trivial. In another, it could be a vital clue to the storyline. Similarly, if a man is clearly sobbing or laughing, or if an audience is clearly clapping, do not label. A sound effect should be typed in white caps, although yellow is sometimes used. It should sit on a separate line and be placed to the left of the screen, unless the sound source is obviously to the right, in which case you can place it to the right. Sound effect labels are not stage directions, they describe sounds, not actions. Gunfire, not they shoot each other. We have an example here from Breaking Bad, Walter Jr. vomiting. Sound effect labels should be as brief as possible and should have the following structure: subject plus active finite verb. Floorboards creak, not creaking of floorboards, or floorboards creaking. John shouts orders, not orders are shouted by John. If you can hear what John is saying, the second example would not be necessary, as the words can simply be subtitled. Descriptive statements are normally preferable to onomatopoeic spellings for sound effects, but context and genre, cartoons versus drama for example, must be taken into consideration here. Gunshot is usually preferable to bang. Sound effect subtitles can also be used judiciously to create the background atmosphere for a scene. Roar from the audience, lively chatter. If a speaker speaks in a foreign language and translation subtitles are given, use a label to indicate the language that is being spoken. This should be in white caps, ranged left above the subtitle, followed by a colon. Time the label to coincide with the timing of the first one or two subtitles. Bring it in and out with short changes if appropriate. For example, in Japanese, I live in Tokyo. If there are a lot of translation subtitles, all in the same language, you only need one label at the beginning, not every time the language is spoken. If the language spoken is difficult to identify, you can use a label saying translation, but only if it is not important to know which language is being spoken. If it is important to know the language, and you think the hearing viewer would be able to detect a language change, then you must find an appropriate label. We have an example here from Sky News National, where it says, had to flee their homes. Next sentence, translation, the flood water. The way in which subtitlers convey animal noises depends on the content style. In factual wildlife, for instance, lions would be labeled in the following way: lions roar. However, in an animation or game, labels can look bland and wooden, and subtitlers should endeavor to convey animal noises phonetically. For instance, lions roar would become something like rar. Sound effects again. The importance of particular sound effects can be best determined by watching the program without sound. Where possible, allow slightly more reading time for a label than for a speech subtitle. An extra second would be sufficient. Having finished sound effects, we're on to the next part of the non-verbal components of subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, that is music. All music that is part of the action or significant to the plot must be indicated in some way. If it is part of the action, for example, somebody playing an instrument or a record, playing or music on a jukebox or radio, then you can use a label in uppercase. For example, she whistles a jolly tune, pop music on radio, or military band plays Swedish national anthem. If the music is incidental music, that is, not part of the action, and well known or identifiable in some way, the label begins music, followed by the name of the music. Music titles should be fully researched. This is normally a very important issue because very many viewers with hearing loss and even viewers without hearing loss watch subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing just because they want to identify songs, and these subtitles normally give them that information. Music is in caps to indicate a label, but the words following it are in upper and lower case, as these labels are often fairly long and a large amount of text in uppercase is hard to read, as we said before. For example, music, the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy by Tchaikovsky. Music, the Swedish national anthem. God Save the Queen, a waltz by Victor Herbert. The Swedish national anthem does not have quotation marks around it, as it is not the official title of the music. Sometimes a combination of these two styles will be appropriate. For example, he hums God Save the Queen, she whistles the dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy by Tchaikovsky. If the music is incidental music, but is an unknown piece, written purely to add atmosphere or dramatic effect, it is best not to label it. However, if the music is not part of the action but is crucial for the viewer's understanding of the plot, a sound effect label should be used, such as eerie music. Song lyrics are almost always subtitled, whether they are part of the action or not. Every song subtitle starts with a white hash mark, and the final song subtitle has a hash mark at the start and at the end. These foolish things remind me of you. These are two exceptions to the previous rule. A. In cases where you consider the visual information on the screen to be more important than the song lyrics, leave the screen free of subtitles. Where snippets of a song are interspersed, when snippets of a song are interspersed with any kind of speech, and it would be confusing to subtitle both the lyrics and the speech, it is better to put up a music label and to leave the lyrics unsubtitled. Song lyrics should generally be verbatim, particularly in the case of well-known songs such as God Save the Queen, which should never be edited. This means that the timing of song lyric subtitles will not always follow the conventional timings for speech subtitles, and the subtitles may sometimes be considerably faster. If, however, you are subtitling an unknown song, specially written for the content, and containing lyrics that are essential to the plot or to the humor of the piece, there are a number of options. Option A, edit the lyrics to give viewers more time to read them, or option B, to combine song lines wherever possible. And option C, do a mixture of both, edit and combine song lines. If you do have to edit, by the way, make sure that you leave any rhymes that are in the song. Song lyric subtitles should be kept closely in sync with the soundtrack. For instance, if it takes about 15 seconds to sing one line of a hymn, your subtitle should be on the screen for 15 seconds. Song subtitles should also reflect, as closely as possible, the rhythm and pace of a performance, particularly when this is the focus of editorial proposition. This will mean that the subtitles could be much faster or slower than the conventional timings for subtitles. There will be times where the focus of the content will be on the lyrics of the song rather than on its rhythm. For example, a humorous song like Ernie by Benny Hill. In such cases, given the reader time to read the lyrics by combining song lines wherever possible is important. If a song is unknown, you could also edit the lyrics, but famous songs like Ernie must not be edited. Where shots are not timed to song lines, you should either take the subtitle to the end of the shot, if it's only a few frames away, or end the subtitle before the end of the shot, if it's 12 frames or more away. All song lines should be centered on the screen. It is generally simpler to keep punctuation in songs to a minimum, with punctuation only within lines, when it is grammatically necessary, and not at the end of the lines, except for question marks, that is. You should, though, avoid full stops in the middle of otherwise unpunctuated lines. Here are some examples. Turn to wisdom. Turn to joy. There's no wisdom to destroy. This could be changed to the option that you have on this slide. In formal songs, however, such as opera and hymns, where it could be easier to determine the correct punctuation, it is more appropriate to punctuate throughout. The last song subtitle should end with a full stop, unless the song continues in the background. If the subtitles for a song don't start from its first line, you can show this by using two continuation. If the subtitles for a song don't start from its first line, you can show this by using two continuation dots at the beginning, such as in Now I Need a Place to Hide Away or I Believe in Yesterday. Similarly, if the song subtitles do not finish at the end of the song, put 3 dots at the end of a line to show that the song continues in the background or is interrupted. I hear words I never heard in the Bible. Having finished with songs, with music, this was the last part of the non-verbal components of subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. Now we're going to present a comparison, a slide which includes a comparison of the different guidelines on subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. You can see guidelines from Spain, the UK, the US, Canada, Australia, Ireland, France, Italy and Belgium, dealing with different formats and in general with different verbal and non-verbal components of subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing as per the guidelines of every country. And we give information regarding the use of boxes, case, the font color, the number of characters per line, the number of lines, placement, justification, identification, context, information, and also the speed, measured in this case in words per minute. Bear in mind that some countries measure speed in characters per second too. Question 4 is a question about this section of the presentation, that is about guidelines in SDH. What are the main components that distinguish subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing from subtitles for the hearing? Option A, sound effects, number of lines, speed and tone. B, tone, music, speed and sound effects. C, character identification, sound effects, tone and music. D, synchronization, music, sound effects and segmentation. The correct answer is C, character identification, sound effects, tone and music. With this question we finish the first and main part of the presentation, which deals with closed captioning or subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing in a pre-recorded mode or environment.